Well, let's go ahead and get started. I don't see others joining right now, and I think we've got a good group here. So we're gonna kind of dive in and leave as much time as possible for the session. Thanks all for sharing that information. That's great. So let's talk about what we're going to go through today. First of all, let me introduce Paul, and then Paul will do a proper introduction for himself. Paul did our program back in 2018 and had an internship at Reflex Group, and now is an associate manager of corporate marketing at Accenture, which I'm sure you may have heard of. Accenture is a huge consulting firm. Um, has experience spanning brand strategy, marketing, strategic planning, and communications consulting, and has worked all around the place, right? New York, Hamburg, Porto, and Brussels over 7 years, and currently is based in Brussels. So really cool, person for you all to learn from today. And, somebody just a few years your senior potentially who's got their foot in the door and working for a great company and great chance for you all to hopefully learn and also ask some questions today about, strategy and your own career route and things that you can learn from that will help you in the next stages of your career. So our goal here is to bring some people to you who are not like doing this process 40 years ago and are out of touch with the current reality, but who have recently been through this process. Quick introduction of myself. So I'm the CEO of ArtBound Initiative. We're an internship program for aspiring content creators, designers, film TV producers, marketers, all, people working in fine arts, fashion. We have over 1,000 interns placed through our program over the years. Um, and so first off, we'll just go through Paul's career journey for about 20 minutes, talk about some learnings and lessons that he had. I'll introduce ArtBound Initiative and who we are, just so you have a bit of background about that and why we're talking today, and then we'll leave an open Q&A session. So as we're going through today's conversation, think about any questions that you have. I love, literally, there's no bad questions. Like any questions here help the conversation flow and get us talking about, the things that are on your mind instead of just me babbling away. So, think about some things that you have questions about as we talk, and hopefully, we'll get to that on the second half. All right. Cool. So let me stop sharing my screen here, and Paul, if you don't mind giving us a introduction of a bit of who you are.
Yeah, sure. No, thanks for having me. So I'm Paul. As you mentioned, Ben, I joined the program back in 2018, and back then I was still a student in Brussels, which is my hometown. And I can tell you a bit about my career path. So basically, as I was in my last year of master's in public relations, I was looking for an internship and I wanted to do it abroad, just to kind of because I didn't get to experience like studying abroad, etc. Some European programs that are in Europe, Erasmus. I didn't get to experience that, so I was looking for an international experience and. ABI helped me get an internship in New York City within a small creative agency, but like a very like small in terms of organization in terms of like employees there, but they were doing very cool projects with a lot of very cool brands, mainly luxury premium brands. And so initially my internship was supposed to last 4 months and I ended up staying a full year in New York. And after that I found a job in Hamburg, which where I became a strategist within an advertising company. It was strategic planning and spent 2 years and a half there in Hamburg. And after that, I was given the opportunity to join Accenture in Portugal at first, still within Accenture Song, which is kind of the like Accenture's subpart that focuses on delivering creative marketing services for its clients, for brands. And shortly, I mean, 2 years after, about two or 3 years after, I did an internal transfer within Accenture into corporate marketing, which was, still working for Accenture, but like not for Accenture Song anymore. And I'm currently still there. That's my current role, and I'm working within Analyst Relations. And yeah, I can tell you a bit about that right after. But yeah, I guess that's pretty much sums it up. And yeah, a bit about myself. I'm French. I was born in Germany and I grew up in Belgium. So yeah, like my professional path, I'm also quite international myself. When people ask me where are you from, it's like, oh gosh, where do I start? But yeah, anyway, and yeah, I'm yeah very very happy to answer any further questions that you may have. But yeah, that's a bit about myself.
Great, thanks, Paul. That was a great introduction, and I think what's interesting is that you've had really kind of like a global career that has spanned a lot of different locations, and um, you've tried out a lot of different working cultures and a lot of different opportunities. Maybe just starting there, like tell us a little bit about what were some of from what you remember, what were some of the differences when you first moved to New York? What was that first transition like when you went from master's program into an internship in New York, um, whether that's just general city culture or working culture, or the shock of kind of moving from education to career. Talk to us a little bit about that transition, what you remember of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the main, big change for me I mean, New York City. I mean, we're talking about New York, right? So it's going to be a huge city no matter where you're like a huge change no matter where you're from.
Mhm.
I always grew up in a city, but like New York is like city times 100, right? I mean, it's so I think that was for me the biggest change, and it also culturally, for me coming from Europe, I wasn't really, accustomed to, yeah, I mean the local like the local culture there, and it felt like, the way I always kind of explain like the difference between the US and Europe is that I feel like in America it's very easy to make new connections at first, when you're in a party or when you meet new people. The ice gets broken very quickly. Whereas in Europe, it takes a bit more time, so it's a bit less direct. You do need to make a bit more like, yeah, it's a bit more consensus driven, and it's less direct. And it's also something that I found it was also the case a bit in the professional milieu as well. But otherwise, I mean, what I've learned from like and overall like moving around places, like the in my work, what I've learned is that there's no one size fits all. I mean, it's you just it teaches you to always learn, adapt to new settings, new people, new situations, and um, yeah, that's basically what I've learned. And professionally in marketing specifically, it's all about maintaining your integrity, like the brand that you work for, but also like trying to adapt, in the local context, and making sure that it resonates with the people that are going to be, confronted to your output. So yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, in the US, we're really friendly, but we don't actually mean it. I'm just kidding. Uh, No, I think it's true that it does help that New York, you have like a lot of people who are all really eager to get their career started, and they're generally. I think New York can be a very. I also moved to New York when I was 19, and even coming from a different city in the U.S., it's a bit of a culture shock, right? You're kind of like, oh man, this is a fast-paced city. People mean business. Like maybe they're not going to be friendly, but the truth is they're just busy. And then at the end of the day, when you meet a lot of people, whether it's within the internship that you're doing or through friends networks, like there's just a lot of interesting people in New York trying to do really cool
So
stuff.
many, and it's especially in the creative field, I feel where, it's very much relationship driven and network driven, etc. New York is so I mean, unique. I feel like there's opportunities there that you can't get anywhere else, and that very much felt like a cliche to me beforehand. But it definitely sounded true when I was there. I mean, I lived things there, like even like not only professionally, also personal wise. It was like very. I felt like I was in a movie sometimes.
Yeah.
And and I guess that's why it makes it such a unique place. I mean, granted, it was back in 2018. like not so long ago, but still like quite a few years ago. And I'm sure it's I mean, it must have changed, and I mean, we were talking about it, right? It must have changed a little bit, but
Yeah.
I can't imagine New York losing its uniqueness and its yeah,
No.
yeah.
No, New York has been through so many iterations, right? And like so many changes and it just got really expensive after COVID. Your lattes became $10, but that's everywhere in the US. But it's still a wonderful city. So tell us a little bit about the internship itself, like that you had with Reflex Group. Like,
Mhm. Yeah.
this was kind of the springboard into your career, right? So
Yeah, it was a great one because it was so like I said, it was quite a small creative agency. So I think we were about 15 employees at the time. And that was just great, a great place to start, especially as an intern, because it meant that I got to experience a lot of like different roles kind of within that structure. I was the guy that, went on the photo shoots, helping out, getting the props, even the creative directing a little bit. Sometimes like the main, our main creative director at the agency had to like kind of juggle between photos and videos, and he couldn't be everywhere at once, so he kind of like gave me a little bit of the work sometimes. So that was one part, right? But then there was these other times where I had to prepare a Facebook ads campaign, handling a big budget for a campaign, making sure that I would generate enough traffic to a new store that was going to open, like for a skincare brand that we were working for. And then once the campaign had finished, I had to go there in person, and kind of like take pictures of like the results. And it ended up being like a huge line around the block. I remember I was
amazing.
actually quite proud of that moment because I was like, oh damn, like I brought all these people
Yeah.
my ads. No, and then of course, next to that, you help develop creative concepts. You do a bit of research of influencers. So it was very, very varied, like my experience there. And I feel like had it been in a bigger structure, at least to start as an internship, it would have definitely been different. Not worse or better, but it was definitely, in my experience, a very, very good fit, at least for what I was looking for from this internship, because I didn't really have a precise idea of where I wanted to go in my career. Some people already know what they want to do, and so therefore, like they can be very specific about the internship that they look for. Me, I was kind of like scouting, figuring out where I wanted to be, and starting in a small structure like that where you're given the freedom to experience different roles. It was really great. So and yeah, I mean the team was really really friendly. The only reason I ended up in this particular company, which yeah, it's called Reflex Group, which I absolutely loved. It was because Laura from ABI, from ArtBound Initiative, um, had recently met Luc, who is the CEO of Reflex Group. And I think I was actually the first intern that they sent to this company, first of,
Amazing.
of then following after, I
I think
think.
we've had 25 or 30 people intern
Yeah.
there over the years. Yeah.
But yeah, and it's so she showed me this company at first, and I was like, oh, I mean, I think it was one of the first, I think if not the first company that she suggested to me. And I was like, that's exactly what I want. Like, yeah, that sounds great. They had, I mean, a really, really cool online presence showing the work that they were doing. Like, oh yeah, I want to work for them.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's something that we try to establish a lot with participants who are coming through the program is that like I think a lot of people, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but a lot of people coming through the program they want like big names like right off the bat, right? Like I want to work for Accenture or I want to work for Netflix or I want and the truth is that like they're not the best places to start. They're really good places to build a career after you've established the foundations. But
Mhm.
the starting places at smaller agencies, first of all, they're looking for talent more frequently. They may move you to a hire more easily because they have more autonomy internally in terms of how they operate. And then you're getting really close relationships across all departments and understanding how the whole thing
Yeah.
works. Whereas I'm sure at a bigger firm or agency, you're really segmented within what you're doing. And so maybe that's a good kind of foray to talk about how does that differ from your job currently, and what is your job currently at Accenture? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get to that, but yeah, I was as you mentioned, for me it was quite a smooth transition because in between Accenture and Reflex Group, I had this one employer, the one that was in Hamburg in Germany, which was called Select World, and that was a bit bigger than the first one. I think it was about 100 people, so still definitely bigger and like more process driven, etc. But still not quite the scale of a very huge, big company, where you have an international presence, etc. Though, I mean, yeah, Select World did have, offices a bit. I think they had it in Paris and New York as well, but yeah, actually, yeah, because I did my internship, my first interview in New York, like whilst I was still in Reflex Group. But anyway, so for me, it was quite a smooth transition. Like starting, small, figuring out where I belong and what I like to do. Then a bit of a bigger structure at Select World where I focused more on strategy and figured out, okay, yeah, I actually like doing this, and then bringing what I was able to learn there into a bigger structure like Accenture. So the way it happened is after 2 years and a half in Hamburg, I kind of felt like it was time for me to move on geographically, go somewhere else. And I actually applied at Accenture Belgium first, in Brussels, because I felt like going back home. And I remember I think I had an interview with like the people from Accenture Belgium, but didn't really hear back at first. And then I get an email from Accenture Portugal saying, "Hey, we know you applied for this position in Belgium, but we actually think you would be a great fit for this opening that we have in Porto, Portugal." And I was like, wow, okay. At first, I was a bit unsure whether, that's what I wanted to do. And then like, I think it took me an hour and I was like, yeah, of course you're gonna go. Like that's a great opportunity. And like Porto is a great place. It's sunny. So I ended up there. Um, I mean, yeah, just because they had me in the system. So that's why I encourage, people to apply for big company that have a presence in several countries, especially if you're willing to travel and like are flexible in terms of like where you want to work, because you may have, a stroke of luck like me where, your profile actually really fits a position that is not maybe where you originally applied, but in another country, and that's, I mean, yeah, that was the case for me. So, and this role was again for Accenture Song for specific clients, an automotive client. And then after 2 years, I think the project, I moved on from project, and then I started working, I think now a year and a half ago, in corporate marketing, which is it's basically marketing for Accenture itself. So like kind of like not internally, like not internal communication, so still external, but for B2B basically. I'm part of the Analyst Relations team, which looks after the relationship that Accenture has with analysts. So analysts kind of publish these reports regularly on um, like all types of services that are out there. So they're going to publish reports basically maybe on I can give you an example on AI services, for example, right? So what they're going to do is like look at the market, look at the providers that are in this space, and they're going to rank us. They're going to rank the different service providers based on, the scale of the projects that they have, the like all bunch of information that they need. And my job in analyst relations is to provide the information that they look for about Accenture so that they can rank us, evaluate us, and then, therefore publish their reports according to the information that they have. And so that obviously requires a lot of internal alignments. I mean, Accenture is a almost 800 thousand people company that has presence basically everywhere. And That means there's a lot of information, there's a lot of projects going on, and to be able to answer the analyst's question, it requires a lot of coordination, making sure that the right stakeholders are coming to the table and discuss about the things that they want to, present to the analyst, etc. And so I'm part of the team that handles all that.
That is really cool. That's really interesting. So you're dealing like really heavily in communications, right? Like external
Yeah,
stakeholders
stakeholder
and
management.
stakeholders.
Yeah, and it's a great. It's been a great transition for me, working in there because I mean, it allowed me to learn a lot about my own company, basically. Because Accenture has many different services that it provides, right? I mean, it works in technology, in industry, in communications, in marketing, in consulting, like strategy, all like pure business. And up until, right before I joined corporate marketing, I was only, kind of limited to Accenture's song and like work focusing on marketing services. And now I really get a big overview of all the things that Accenture does. And so and especially in analyst relations, you get to work with the leaders, right? I mean, I was so on one of the reports that we recently responded to, there was, it involved me scheduling meetings with Lan Guan, which is the chief AI officer of Accenture.
Oh,
So, I mean, I mean, obviously, I'm not sure she would remember, my name, maybe she does, but anyway, you do deal with like people very high up in Accenture. So it gives you a lot of visibility and a great way for you to know the latest projects and get the leader's perspective. So I find it
I mean,
very interesting
it's
myself.
an incredible opportunity also just for you to, as you said, just for you to like have insight into all the different things that are happening within in Accenture because you usually, except for really high level management, most people aren't getting that type of insight, and even high level management might not get the detail and the types of things that you're getting to learn, right?
At least the breadth of view, like in getting that view, yeah, I mean it really felt like a change for me. And no, I mean it's like you said, it's a great way for me to discover the company for sure.
Yeah.
And it's a great company, honestly. I mean, I'm by the way, I'm not at all here about like to talk about and like to uplift Accenture or whatever, but I personally really like the company where I work. Even from a like purpose perspective, like I feel very driven by what they stand for. And yeah, I mean, at least for now, I don't plan on leaving Accenture anytime soon.
Great. Yeah, and so you went from a team of 20 to or so, 15 or 20, right, to a team of 100 and just for reference for everybody on the call, Accenture has I just looked up 786,000 employees. So a little bit bigger than the last one that you
Build it.
you worked with. That's wild.
And I think that's what's like so great about working. I mean, because there are, I mean, you could see it as a downside, like, oh, okay, like 800,000 people, oh, I would feel lost, etc. But the thing is that it's so easy to reach out to people. You have all of these expert, like literally anything you can think of in the world of IT or strategy or whatever. In Accenture, there's going to be an expert for that specific thing, and you can just reach out to them anytime, like using Teams, like ping. Everybody's very, very still accessible, and they may not get back to you right, like, within the hour or whatever, but you do have the means to reach out to this huge network, and that feels very empowering, especially when you're talking to a client and like asks you a question. I feel like that's one of the big strengths of Accenture. It's its scale and like
Yeah,
yeah.
incredible. We have a lot of good questions already, so I'm going to take a short aside to talk about ABI. Just a quick 5 minutes, and Paul, you could take a sip of water or something. Yeah, there you go. See, right on cue. Um, and let me just head over to my slides one more time, real quick. So just a little bit of background about who we are, and then we'll get back to the questions. Because you may want to follow a similar path if you're if you're still in school or recently graduated. So we're a global internship program for creatives. Our goal is really to support recent grads and students in a bridging between what you're learning within university and then how to actually secure an internship, secure a job, and prepare your profile in a way that's meaningful, that's going to get you those things. So we're kind of like an extra course that you take outside of your university, but we offer guaranteed outcomes and much more value in practical implementation than a single course. Um, and we're a small program. We have really, hands-on support for each of our participants, which we continue to do even as we scale the program. When Paul came in, I don't know how many participants we had that year. I think we probably had 50 people come through the program that year, and now we're doing about 300 a year. So, but one thing that we always maintain is to have very hands-on support with all of our participants, and that's why, part of the reason why we keep it a small program. Who it's appropriate for. So you may be looking at this and wondering whether it's the right program for you if you're a student or you're a recent grad and you're looking to get started in creative industries. If you're looking for an internship internationally, it's particularly challenging. Companies don't understand how to navigate the visa process. They don't want to hire internationally because they have enough talent at their fingertips in the city they work within. Um, like Reflex Group doesn't need to hire international interns, for example, but with the support of an intermediary program like ours, then it makes it really easy for them to do that. International students, if you're already in the country, but you're an international student, we can help support with the requirements. And then if you're looking to do an internship for academic credit, we can meet the requirements and timeline necessary because we have that guaranteed component. Different destinations that you can go for internships. So in the US, New York, Chicago, LA, Miami, and Austin. We've got London and Berlin in Europe, Melbourne and Sydney in Australia. And then you can do a virtual program if none of these destinations work for you, and you still want to do an internship in your field. A few different program inclusions. So it is a program that you'll pay for. So you should know all that gets included within that fee. There's four main components. Excuse me, it's a little bit mixed up. Let me talk to you first about the internship types that we have. So advertising, communications, anything in communications, PR, marketing, advertising, all the types of things that Paul has been talking about. Design, so graphic branding, motion, content creation, art direction, fashion. I saw somebody here in fashion, so marketing, wholesale, PR, entertainment media, if you're looking to go into production, post-production, VFX, photography, and then fine art. So if you're, as an artist or you want to work for a gallery or an institution, we have placements in those areas too. So let's go back to the inclusions. The first thing that you'll get in the program is the ABI Academy. And this is something that happens before the internship itself. This is like a mentorship and coaching program where you're working with industry professionals, and we're helping you to really revamp your resume, your portfolio, do interview practice sessions with recruiters in your field, and help prepare you for success in the internship. And this is actually what makes our program work, is because we're doing the work with you prior to the internship to really make sure that you're career ready. Not just like coming out of school and being long-term career ready, but how do you actually make that entry point is really, really important. And it's different from how you make the rest of your career excel. So this is what we focus on specifically here. These are live sessions with industry pros, and they're also done part-time. So it's really built for a full-time school schedule if you're wondering, how much time does this take me? Some examples of some of the people that we work with, working for Warner Brothers, MTV, Omnicom, Ralph Lauren, Aquent, and Shutterstock. So, a lot of great industry pros that are the coaches and mentors within the program. The second component that we have is a guaranteed internship placement. So the reason that we're able to guarantee this is because of the process that I mentioned about the ABI Academy and because of the relationships that we have with partner companies. So those two things combined and our admissions process into the program allows us to say we know who is going to be a good potential placement, and then we're working with you to ensure that you're going to get placed over the time period, that you're in the program. Um, Internships range in duration. They can also be part-time or full-time, credit or experience. You should budget for an unpaid internship because there's still a lot of unpaid internships. And then a lot of our participants are getting hired post-internship. So something that you can think of as like a springboard into your career. Some of our partner companies, Reflex Group, as we talked about. I'll just flash through some of these. I'm not going to go through all the details, but just some examples of companies that we work with across our different destinations, and things for you to look at. But as I mentioned, over 300 company partners across different destinations that we work within. Next is support. So if you're going internationally, we handle the visa processing, we handle the insurance arrangements, and there's also optional housing arrangements in all of the destinations. So this is really an end-to-end service. This is not just internship. This is full package end to end. The visa, the insurance, the housing, they're not included in the program fee, but we do handle the processing of it, which is important because you're going to need to, make sure that the visa is in alignment with the company. The company has to be involved in the process, and so that's something that we handle. And then when you land in city, you get an in-city orientation from our team. And then just throughout the entire program, we're, as I mentioned, very hands-on. So throughout the placement process, throughout your internship itself as well, we'll be in touch with you and also, helping on video call, helping to troubleshoot anything as needed. And last but not least is access to our network. So we have a network of over 1,000 alum. And, I think similar, not the same, but similar, Paul, you were mentioning, how you have access to all these different experts within Accenture that you can just touch base with. Our network is meant to be the same way. You've got access to a lot of alumni who are now, like Paul's now working at Accenture. And if you go through the program, you can reach out to him and say, hey, what's up? I'm in the program. Like, would love to grab a virtual coffee if you have the time, learn from you, etc. Think about having so many people like that who have now become, more senior. And we also do events in all of the cities that we operate in person. And just some of the examples of, where people are at now. Paul, we got to add you to this list. Um, so let's talk about tuition. If you're doing our domestic or virtual program, it's 2250. If you're going internationally, it's 3250. And that includes all the components that I mentioned. I know this isn't a lot of money. This is not like something that you're gonna like swipe a card on right away. This is something to really consider, but I do want you to think about it as comparable to a 3 credit course. I'm talking US prices, 3 credit course, and having guaranteed outcomes in terms of what you're getting on the other side of that. That's not just going to be an internship, but going to help propel your career forward based on everything that you've learned. And we offer grants up to the full program fee for our domestic and virtual programs for those that are coming from financial needs-based background. So you can see that on our page. Upcoming application deadlines. We do have a final deadline for Australian summer internships for those of you that are, based in Australia. For those of you that are based elsewhere, if you're looking to do something in the fall, send in an application. There's no fee to apply. So getting your application is the next step. It takes about 20 minutes. We ask for your resume, your portfolio if you have one, a couple of references, and then other information. And the next step after that will be an interview with our team where we're going to work with you together to develop your internship strategy. That means the types, the destinations, and a timeline. And we're also going to decide, whether or not you're ready for the program based on what you're looking to do and where you're at currently. And then if you're accepted into the program, then you get to make your decision whether or not to enroll. And only at that stage will there be any deposit required from you. So you can go through this entire process, have a one-on-one chat with our team, see if the program's right for you, and then move forward or put it on hold or decide how you'd like. So I will put the link to apply in the chat box here, and then you can take it forward from there. Let me see if there's anything else here. And we do have an info session coming up, but it's basically the information that I just went through with you just now. So if you want to hear it again or you want to talk to some of our other alumni, you can join there. But yeah, I'm going to close out of this screen. Let me stop sharing there and
I
also,
can just add on something that you, because you were talking about all the advantages that you guys offer, etc. Like for me, what I feel was most valuable was, the ability to be connected to people, to have like you guys were sort of the middleman to me getting to know people. And that is so important, professionally and especially in the creative field, getting to know people,
yeah,
getting a foot in the door. And I remember it was because of, because of the fact that you guys put me in touch with people and suggested to me companies that at the end of my internship in New York, I had to choose between two job offers. It was Spring Studios, which is one of you guys' partner, and
yeah,
another company I had heard of because I had been put in touch with somebody that knew about the company in New York. And I got to go to like meet these people that you guys were in touch with, and like I had the opportunity to meet with them, get a coffee, and like and then talk about. So that's what really got me in like in touch and connected within the industry. And so I feel like for me that was the most important. Next to, of course, all the practical stuff,
Yeah, yeah.
having not having to worry about visa and all the admin process that you guys handled. But
Yeah.
yeah,
No, I
anyway.
appreciate that. And I think, and not to try to like, I'm not trying to hard sell it here, but something that I think a lot of people perceive is like, I can apply for an internship myself. Like, why do I need a
Yeah,
program like this?
yeah.
And you can apply for internships yourself. But what we find with a lot of students or graduates is that especially in a harder job market like right now, you may be applying to 50 different opportunities and hear back from two of them and not know why your profile isn't moving forward. And if you have a great profile, it might move forward easily, but you may just be missing some aspect of your interview process or your resume or portfolio or alignment with what the company needs that you're not going to get feedback from them because they're processing 300 applicants, right? So um, that sounds really simple, like, oh, I can just make some edits here and apply. But what ends up happening is that um, a lot of companies aren't actually posting those opportunities online, right? So it's a matter of like, does the profile meet the company's needs? Is the profile aligned? Are your interview skills ready? Are you going to nail it during the internship because you've had the right prep work done? Do you know how to take the next steps forward, of how to leverage that into a job opportunity and into a career? And those are all things that take training and work.
Mm,
It's not so simple because your university really sets you up for a long-term career, but they don't really set you up for that entry point.
yeah,
So
the first step. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
No, that's
So
good.
that's what we're really specializing. So great. Enough about us. Let's get back to the questions, which I'm going to start from the top. Bruce said, "What did you love or hate about New York City the most?"
Honestly, I don't remember a lot of like I don't have a lot of bad memories from New York. Honestly, I really really loved it. I always look back at it like with a lot of nostalgia, and I always want to go back. I made friends there that I'm still in touch with. So honestly, I think the things I loved there was, oh, maybe the food being more expensive. And in Europe, you do have different standards in terms of food, etc. So it's harder to eat healthy in New York. It's not impossible, but it's very like it's more expensive. So I would say that is the one negative point about New York, maybe compared to Europe at least.
Yeah,
But otherwise, no, the whole thing was just a great experience. Honestly, I don't have any, yeah.
yeah. And Bruce, you're in LA, so I think the food prices are probably pretty comparable.
No,
Um,
the reason when I asked is because I used to live in New York too.
oh,
So it's really
cool.
curious.
Yeah,
Thank
LA
you.
is LA is a definitely different vibe from New York. I loved LA and I almost moved there after living in New York for 8 years. I was like, wow, this is like I almost did the move that everybody does, which is like New York for a while and then like, oh wait, I can like live in sunshine. Um, yeah. So Arya asked, what's the best way to apply to smaller agencies? Oftentimes they may not advertise online. I'm going to answer this first, and then Paul, I'll let you follow up from there. Arya, the thing that we always recommend to people, and I would recommend to you as well, is when you're thinking about doing applications to agencies, don't think about volume. I think a lot of people think that okay, um, the if 100 people are applying to jobs, right? Like it's actually hundreds when it's on LinkedIn. Let's say hundreds of people are applying to a job. Okay, let's say there's a 1 in 200 chance that somebody's getting a job off that LinkedIn post. So what I need to do is go on LinkedIn and apply to 200 jobs and I'll get one. Why didn't I get anything when I applied to 200 jobs? I didn't even get a response. And the reason is because it has nothing to do with volume. Everybody is going and clicking to a bunch of jobs, and those applications are actually getting kind of like thrown out because we, even in our company, I see applications and I'm like, it's not related. It doesn't make sense. Why is this person applying to us? Like, I don't feel that they were actually looking for this job specifically. The best thing that you can do is really narrow it down to like 5 or 10 companies that you love and start researching them. Like understand what they do, look at their campaigns, connect with the people within the company on LinkedIn, you know, ask somebody junior there to have a coffee with you and talk to them, even if it's virtual and talk to them about, their experience with the working culture, send them a $15 Starbucks card or something for their time. something like that. And then you go and you ask for a connection or you connect with somebody who's the hiring manager. Who's the hiring manager? It's not the recruiter. The person that works in HR is not the right person to target. They are the people who are there to filter applications, but they're not the ones making the final decision. You want to hit, let's say you're in film or video, you want to get to the senior producer. Or if you are in design, you want to get to the creative director. Or you're in marketing, you might want to get to the senior account manager. Those are the people who are actually making the hiring decisions and that you need to connect with on LinkedIn and say, hey, or on email and say, hey, I've been following your company. I love these campaigns that you did. I met with this person, had a coffee, and can we meet? Like, I just want to see if there's a possibility for me to work here someday, and that is going to way increase your chances. And likely they may even carve out a position for you, even though they don't have a posting online. By the time they post online, it's kind of too late. Like they will have worked their internet work already and found somebody to fill that position if they could have. Yeah. Does that
Thank
answer your
you.
question, Arya?
Yeah, it does. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Anything to add to that, Paul?
No, my answer would be pretty much aligned with yours. Is like, showing that you care about this specific company, instead of doing the quantity thing, really show that maybe pick this particular campaign that particularly resonated with you. Explain, very briefly. Don't go into too much length about it, because there's a, there's a right amount of efforts to show. But no, I would definitely say like, yeah, how it resonates with you and like why you would be a great addition to the company personally. I think any personal touch that you bring and like how you would fit into this company is an added thing. So yeah, definitely go for quality here. Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is that nobody does it. That's the thing. Nobody does that. So when you do it, you automatically like the bar is so low to stand out nowadays because most people are just hitting apply
Yeah.
online. The bar is so low. And I was talking to somebody yesterday, production company in Australia, and we were talking about this, and he was like, I had this one guy that walked into the office one time and like handed me his resume and I hired him. Like because like it felt special, right? Like and I had a conversation with another post-production company that I was like, wouldn't it be amazing if somebody like made a video for you and edited it in your style and like sent it to you to get hired? And he was like, dude, I would hire them immediately. Like, I mean, the thing is like the bar is very low. So you don't have to do that much, but you do need to do something that shows like, hey, I care about you. I want to work for you specifically. Yeah.
And I feel like it's even more important nowadays, especially with AI, etc. I mean, and this is not, any view, like this is my personal opinion, is I feel like what you bring to the table as a human in a much more AI-driven world, your personality, the way you collaborate with teams, what you bring as soft skills. I'm not saying that it didn't matter before, but I just feel like it's gonna become more important in terms of proportionality, I mean, and your hard skills are still gonna be relevant, right? I mean, it's still important to have experts out there. I'm just saying that in the balance, the way it's going to weigh in the balance, like your professional personality, your uniqueness as a human is going to matter more, I feel.
Yeah, 100%. We're definitely seeing that from partner companies that we work with. They're like, give me the person who's gonna bring a different take to our team because we have all this generic stuff we can do now, right? Like, okay, Alet, is it Alet? Am I pronouncing it correctly? Okay, great. In your experience, what skills do smaller agencies value most, Paul?
Smaller agencies, I think, would look for versatility, being able to handle different jobs, especially because, they might have a smaller team and like not always have like the roles filled by enough people. So I would say being able to learn and adapt would be my guess for small agencies versus where bigger agencies might look for more specific profiles, more expert roles and specialization. I feel like that would be the main big difference, yeah, here between both.
Great.
And that I know it sounds like very, very vague, versatility. I mean, right? But I mean, I feel like it's yeah, it's that learning by doing attitudes, and I just feel like it's what makes a good intern in a small scale agency is like yeah, they're gonna look for somebody that can do a bit of everything. At least in my experience, that was the case with Reflex Group, right?
No, it
So
makes sense because if you have 10 or 15 people on the team,
right,
like that person needs to be able to cover a lot of different things. Whereas
yeah,
if you have
autonomy
800,000
also.
people on the team, like you're going to be way
And
more specific in your tasks. Yeah.
in being autonomous, I would also add to that, being, not having somebody that always tells you what to do. You need to be, more proactive. As the team is smaller, they may have less, time and resources to look after you as an intern because you are still learning, and you need. But so yeah, being able to show up with a proactive attitude and skills. So that I think that's also something that they would look
Yeah.
for. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember my first job in tech and I asked the CEO a question. I was like texting him and I asked him a question and he like sent back like google.com and I was like, fuck, like, okay. It's like, like it was embarrassing. I was like,
Hard,
okay,
but I
yeah,
mean,
I'll Google it first, but
fair. Yeah.
really funny. Um, Svea, as how important would you say was your master's for your career?
Well, yeah, it was, I would say it was important for two reasons. First of all, because it taught me stuff, that I was actually using at my internship. Not everything. There's parts of my studies and like my master's that I've completely forgotten because they're not relevant to what I do now. But some of the things that I learned in university were very, very useful actually in New York, and allowed me to come up with I mean with proposals with added value to the team. But also I mean, it is something that's, recruiters and people look for when looking at profiles. Uh, Having a master's, I do feel like it does, yeah, add value. And I know this because I also know people who didn't graduate and are still looking for jobs. Like I mean, yeah, depending on the industry, it's
Yeah.
gonna be relevant. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I would say
Yeah.
very.
Would you say without your internship at ABI, it would have been harder to get a job in the US now?
Yes. Yes, it would have been. Especially because when I think of the depth, I mean, not only the depth of the advice that you guys gave me, the speed at which, I got it, it was incredible. I'm not saying it wouldn't have been possible, like you said, Benjamin. I mean, but it would have taken me a lot more time and effort to get an internship in New York. Um, and I mean, especially now, I can only imagine it got harder since 2018.
Administration.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of the companies that we work with, they don't, when we originally, build connections with them, they don't even hire interns out of state,
Mm, yeah.
at that time because it's just like so low priority for them on it. Not that it's not important, it's just in terms of their list of urgencies. It's like so low urgency for them to build a relationship with a university outside of New York City when they have tons of super high qualified universities in New York City. But the negative and downside for them, which they understand and realize, is that they really don't have a wide variety of viewpoints if they're doing that. So it is important for them to hire people outside of state, outside of country, but they don't have the resources or the time to do it or the
No,
know-how.
and you guys facilitate that, right? I
Yeah.
mean, yeah. So that's I would say that is the main. I honestly I don't think I would have gotten that internship if I had applied to Reflex Group directly. I mean, maybe they would have. Uh, yeah, I don't know. But the way it happened with me is like I had a call, I think 1 week after the first outreach, or 2 weeks after, and no, it happened quite fast actually. So yeah,
Cool.
thanks to you guys for that.
Yeah. Samuel asked, good morning. How do you get trust from agencies after applying for a position?
Trust? What do you mean?
Maybe Samuel you can elaborate a little bit
Yeah.
there. You can either unmute, it's fine, or you can type it.
I was wondering if when it comes to like doing interviews or like
During an interview process.
securing that, securing like finding a different process, like a simpler process on securing like your career when it comes to like like finding like common ground and like starting straight away or I think maybe before after the interview, I think.
Yeah, maybe I'll start to answer this one, Paul, first, which is that you have when you're applying for a position or when you're trying to build success during the recruitment stage of things, you have very, very, very few touch points with that person. And each of those touch points has a huge amount of weight. The reason why a lot of jobs happen through referral is because the person who's hiring trusts that the person who's referring has had many, many more touch points with that person. So, for example, if Luke at Reflex, who is Paul's boss, says, "Hey, you should work with Paul. I just worked with him for 3 months," they're going to trust that. Okay, all the experience that this person has had with this person has given them enough time to assess that they're actually good. Whereas if I'm interviewing you, I have your resume, I have potentially your references if I call them, and who I don't know if they're going to be biased to. They're probably going to be biased towards you. Thank you, Bruce. Or and I don't know also like and I have your interview skills, which some people are great at interviewing and are not good on the job, and vice versa, right? So um, each touch point that you have with a recruiter or with the employer at that time has increasing weight, which is why before what we said is that if you go a normal application route, which is click online, hope for an interview, do an interview, you minimize the amount of opportunities that you have to make an impression. Whereas if you are connecting on LinkedIn, already following their work, you already know about their work, you're mailing a resume so they get it in the mail, showing up at the office, whatever, like you're doing things that are outside the norm, they showcase soft skill sets that they're looking for, which is tenacity, problem solving, interest in that specific company. Like you're doing the things that show them the skills that they can't assess possibly on an interview, which is why it works really well. An interview, you can only assess what somebody's saying, but you can't actually tell if what they're saying is real. Everybody's going to say, "I'm a hard worker. I'm a problem solver." Everybody says that, but what do you actually do that shows that you're that person? So that's why those things matter a lot. Yeah, Paul, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
No, I think you covered it. I mean, and it's such an important I mean, how you show up, is gonna be very, very much impactful on the amount of trust that they're gonna put in you. And so it's why it's, as you said, those interactions at the beginning are very, very important because yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
they're so limited.
Yep.
Okay.
Um, yeah, hope that was helpful, Samuel. Um, Svea, you asked how long after graduation can you do an internship? Depends on where you're going. So I know you're in Germany right now, so if you're going to the US, it would be on a J1, it has to be within 12 months of graduation. But you can do what's called a J1 trainee visa, which if you've had at least 1 year of full-time work experience within your field of study. So it doesn't have to be together. It can be like 2 months here, 3 months there, but it needs to add up to 12 months. It needs to be after your studies are finished. It needs to be in your field of study, and it has to be full-time. If you meet all those criteria, then you can do what's called a J1 trainee visa, and this allows you to be in the US for up to 18 months. Um, we facilitate up to 6 months maximum, but then you can turn that into a job for a year. Uh,
Hmm.
and if the company is willing to convert it, still on the J1 visa, you would need to do an extension, which is another fee, and you can stay up to 18 months. So that's the opportunity that you have post-graduation in the US. In London, you can do up to 2 years post-graduation in the UK. And in Australia, you can do up to age 30, I believe, on what's called a work and holiday visa, which is a 2-year visa that allows you to um, work and holiday. So you can work at different places. You can take vacation. There's no real limit, whereas the US is very specific. It must be tied to the employer and you can only work. Yeah.
Yeah, I was interested in the US and I'm like, I have like 3 years of relevant work experience now,
Then, yeah.
but I'm just looking to master's or traineeship. something
Yeah, so it's a great
to.
opportunity if you have 3 years of working experience, then that allows you to do an internship, maybe experience another city. Of course, for you, it may feel like a step back in terms of career wise, but in terms of moving from having worked within the field to an internship, but then at the same time, what you're really doing is like you're going to, build cultural experience, you're going to build experience with other companies and understand, and build relationships that hopefully can leverage you into future opportunities that are different from what you have in front of you right now.
Yeah, I've worked at like startups only, so I would love like a more professional setting where you
Yeah.
don't wing it.
Yep.
So it's really interesting. Thank
Okay,
you guys.
wonderful. Yeah, please. I'm gonna leave my 1 second. I'm leaving my email there just because if you go through the normal route of kind of checking your eligibility on our website and whatnot, it may kind of send you through some questions and because it's based on graduation dates and things like that. So if you're thinking of applying, just shoot me an email so I can flag it to the team.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I let you ask as a fine art student, what should be included in my portfolio portion of an application to ArtBound? So if you have a portfolio with your work, then you can include a PDF or a website. Yeah, if you don't have a PDF, you can drop your work into images in a Google Doc and then export it as a PDF. Yeah. Like what we do in the program is actually to help you develop a portfolio that's structured properly for applications. But what we need to see at the stage of your application to us is the volume of work and a quality of work that you have. But there's no, like, we'll let you know during the application process if there's something missing. So, don't feel like, okay, I'm preventing myself from applying because I'm not quite sure. I got to do more work and stuff like that. Just apply with what you have and we'll let you know if we need something more. Cool. Great. Answers all the questions. I'm going to leave, for those who are still on the call, I'm going to leave my LinkedIn here and Paul's LinkedIn here as well. 1 second. Feel free to reach out to me, message me. I always answer messages on LinkedIn, so it might take me a day or two, but I'll get to it. And Paul, this was great. I really appreciate, your time and advice for
Pleasure.
everybody and some great questions here. So thank you for your time and thanks everybody for joining. Really appreciate the time here.
Thank you, Ben. And yeah, likewise as for Ben, you can also shoot me a message on LinkedIn, and I'll try to answer it, of course. But yeah, no, thanks for having me, Ben. Again,
Awesome. All right. Bye.
have a good one, everybody. Bye.